I'm hoping we'll settle into something. But part of the problem is like we were still. This has been such a constant workshop, which has been great. But it's also like, wait, what version of this were we doing now? What decision did we come up with? Because every single rehearsal we come up with 10 new decisions on how we're going to do the game in order based on our whole thing. And then we come back into this world again. We're like, wait, what was the plan? It's pretty funny.
It is funny. I mean, we definitely are embracing the concepts of improv with comfort with ambiguity, because we have the joy of a lot of ambiguity at all times.
Yeah, well said.
But one of the things we love about it, and why I say this every time we do an interview, we're writing a book about digital theater, but your show was the reason we're not going past this year, because if you researched it, people like you guys were doing digital theater before it became the thing of 2020. And so you guys are like the truest of true pioneers. And so how does it feel to know that you were doing something, as the hipsters say, before it was cool, and now that is cool, you're like, no, let's show you how it's done.
So we, it was part of when Matt connected up our group in Los Angeles with the group from San Francisco. That was the first time that we started to see some of it. And what was really cool is we saw so much of the potential of how to utilize the technology to be able to, in real time, connect two theaters in two completely different cities. And we did, Los Angeles and San Francisco, but for all intents and purposes, that could have been Los Angeles and Moscow. That could have been Los Angeles and Beijing, and so it kind of like, we felt like we were planting the seed of something that really had some great potential, but the technology and the internet speed was not there. It was one of these things where we would do a show, and especially because we ran rehearsals together, two theaters in two different cities, connecting up. So much was going on with the, technology elements breaking down and things like that. And we were doing it absolutely on a shoestring budget, because we didn't have any big sponsorships. By the way, sponsors, please, by all means, help us get where our dreams want it to be. We had all sorts of great ideas that weren't fully able to come together because of it. But there were still moments, even during the shows, where you would have this sense of like two audiences in two completely different cities and two set of improv troupes working together for the same goal. And there were moments where you would see the genius coming together and you could see the future coming together, but it was always difficult because of the technological limitations. And then fast forward to now, and suddenly we're coming back. Part of the reason why Matt and it was so funny when Matt called me up and said, "Hey, John, what have you been up to?" It was really exciting because I had already seen so many of the things that we were working on 10 years ago start being used on the Ellen DeGeneres show, start being used on, what was the one that we were watching, Matt?
We both saw, that's what was weird. We both were watching Good Morning America. Something?
Yeah, I forget what it was. It was, but we were both. No, it was the Kelly Clarkson show.
It was Kelly Clarkson.
Not that I'm not a fan, but I just don't watch it a lot. But it just happened that serendipitously, Matt and I were watching the exact same segment randomly, where they did a game that we felt we had invented, where it was basically doing a scavenger hunt in your own home with a celebrity. And we had this concept for our game show, our online game show. I'm sure other people thought the thought, but it was sort of like all of these things sort of came together and made us feel like there's a lot going on here and a lot of potential to be tapped.
What were your thoughts kind of transitioning from what you had been doing 10 years ago to what you're doing now?
I'll say what we were doing. So the way we would do it 10 years ago, we had a projector screen in each theater. So we would be performing on stage with essentially a giant like head or whatever, because it would be an entire projection screen of a person in our theater with us next to it, performing with it. So what was really fun for me one, I love all these people. So it was really fun for me to have a reason to hang out with them all the time right now. But also just Misa and John and I did improv together in a troupe for a long time in LA for 10 plus years. So we have a lot of games that we played on the stage. And what was really fun for me was the creativity of going through our lists of games that we've played, you know, that we felt like we had a lot of interesting takes on for a theater, but would not work this way. But how can it work this way? And finding, you know, tweaks to these games of like, oh, wait, this could be really cool. This could be really cool. And then trying it during this process. Part of what took us so long to start doing shows, we were trying things on Zoom, trying things on StreamYard, trying things on Skype. We tried on several different streaming platforms, and they all offer different features. So like, how can we lock the boxes in place so we know where to look? How can we, you know, every streaming service has such a different way of doing it that make or break the games we wanted to try to play. So there was a ton of creative trial and error just to get to a place where it was like, all right, this is a cool set of things that we can do in this particular platform. And now we're ready to show people. And we're going to keep doing that to create, you know, new games or tweak our old games in new creative, innovative ways. And that's really fun. And that's something you usually get to do in a theater setting.
I love that. Yeah. One of the things we noticed is that each technology has its pros and cons. I mean, one of a colleague of ours once said that Zoom is primitive, you know, because it's not very smart. It's not very intuitive. And you guys decided to go with StreamYard, which we think is genius. But then we're like, there's no phone app yet, which, by the way, if anybody wants to like send them letters to make a phone app, we would love to use them instead.
There immediately. Yes.
So does anyone want to talk about how like technology like StreamYard kind of set up the boxes and made sure you could click them into place and how that all worked?
Matthew came to me pretty early on in the pandemic, and I was thinking about a different show. And I settled on StreamYard because of the idea of being able to control where the boxes are. When Matthew brought me into Tilted Frame, that was the biggest question that we were trying to answer, is which of the benefits of each of the different streaming platforms was going to best emphasize what we were trying to do.
Yeah.
And so like with Zoom, you had the ability to have your audience with you. You have the chat feature. It's more direct timing wise. There's no latency, things like that. They have better background usage. As you can see, my phone actually has a background, which I can't do in StreamYard. With using OBS and Skype, it was better quality. There was, again, it was the latency was even smaller. There was all these different pros and cons with all of these different services. But what we really realized at the very end, and actually it was what I was arguing the whole time, that where the boxes were and the control of the boxes and being able to like, so Matthew and I and David are all able to control where the boxes are at the same time. There's 3 hosts running. Oh, I forget that I have bad. There's 3 hosts running at the same time. It gave backups, and then also because a lot of the games require specific eye line, like I'm looking this way, or I'm part of a body, that required specific places for each actor to be. We landed on StreamYard because it was the only one that was that allowed us to do that properly.
I would just add to that, one of the things we also, part of this was just, it was fun to play with all these. Like, it was interesting to kind of test it all. And we do realize like technology is still changing. Mm-hmm. And it is quite possible that Zoom could come out with a feature next month that will allow us to do everything that StreamYard does, and we may move over to Zoom. But right now, it was kind of like weighing which one gave us what we really needed. And as Miles said, we do very specific work where it can't just be randomly placed blocks. And as you guys know, Ricky and Dana, talking to people, the artists who are doing this are jumping in, not because we're making a lot of money at this, but because it is fun. There's like, we kind of feel like we're on the dawn of a new era where we can like experiment and play with all this and have like kind of a world market. So yeah, it will still be changing.
Also, well, they added the virtual filters, which were really fun for like Angel Devil. We could have a halo, things like that.
Yeah.
To play with. But one of the things that made Zoom nearly impossible for us, other than just the control of the boxes, was it mirrors you for yourself, but nobody else. So when we were playing games with eye lines or where we're matching head and body, what I'm seeing is not only is it reverse to me, it's reverse to how everyone else looks to me. And it was such a mind F to try to like twist where everybody's going to be. Whereas in StreamYard, if it's mirrored or not mirrored, everyone looks the same to you. Everyone's mirrored or everyone's not mirrored.
So in some ways, the intuitiveness or like Zoom trying to solve all of these problems made it more difficult for us. It's almost like in some ways with technology, when something becomes user friendly, that means someone who has got knowledge above and beyond a user, it becomes more difficult because their intuitiveness is actually makes it more difficult to be tweakable. So those things are always in balance, intuitiveness and tweakability. And I think they, rightfully for their audience, world audience, will probably went with the intuitive thing. But for us, we're doing a very specific product and we need to be able to tweak things and we need control. And so that's why we went with this one.
Well, another one we love and we'd love to hear more about it is the movie game, because that one seems to have the most audience interaction, maybe second only to the "Why Were You Late," which is also we could be here all day telling you our favorite. But we love how you guys figured out how to integrate the audience into what you're doing in a fun and interesting way. And how is that accomplished, one? And how does it feel sometimes knowing that you're like either going to come in blind or you hear what the audience told you, but now you're like, what does that even mean? And going with it.
And I can speak towards that. I mean, well, first off, I wanted to comment on the, we had a laundry list of different technologies that we could use at first. We didn't know about Zoom or Skype or OBS, which one was going to be best. And we kind of looked at everything and said, which one is going to be the best? Which is going to check off the most boxes for us? Which ones are absolute priorities? Which ones are not as much of a priority? What Jaimie was saying about the mirroring and stuff, that was a huge issue for the actors, Right. And then as far as like having the design spill off of the squares on the screen and being able to have backgrounds and fill out the rest of it, that kind of makes you forget about the boxes momentarily, which kind of makes it seem like the before times, sort of. If we're going to go Mad Max style, let's talk about before times. Yeah. But the movie part, there was questions about like how long it was going to take for me to get a picture for them to because they go into a movie at one point and I need a picture that they both match, and I need to get those pictures to the actors as quickly as possible, and then they have to load those into their StreamYard stuff. So it's there's a lot of moving pieces and stuff, and we just make it work. The audience gives suggestions at the beginning, and those are the first suggestions that they give, the movie title and the movie location, so I can madly Photoshop some stuff very quickly and have it ready by the time we need it during the show. So
we gotta applaud you for that.
Yeah, because
we wouldn't have guessed.
That is outright magic, because I was one of those things where the magic of improv is where you can get someone in there and they almost don't know it's made up. Like the great thing is, it's always made up. But then the best improv is where you almost go, okay, where's the damn script writer? Because I'm just saying,
right. Well,
someone's a plant, someone's there. So when we first saw the movie, we're like, as I think it was one of our suggestions or something.
Yeah.
And then we just saw all of a sudden it hit the screen. And you're like, what the absolute hell? That is
Like, how did you get that background? And then to know, David, you're sitting there like, and I'm gonna put this over here, and I'm going to digitally tape this down with digital duct tape. Kudos, because that's not easy.
Because if it was Dana and Ricky, someone be holding up a poster board. I'm just saying.
Well, to preserve the improvosity, if that's a word, we're giving the suggestions and stuff to the actors as late as possible.
Mm-hmm.
So they have to come up with things on the fly. Unfortunately, I have to give them the backgrounds for the movie before the show because they do not have time to do anything. But that's a background.
We're setting up for each scene between scenes.
Right.
That
So
little moment when the screen is up,
we time to look in their
whatever else we're putting together has to happen there. So it's a lot going on with just getting your head around all of the things that have to happen already. So it's very fresh. Yeah.
That I think that really speaks to like what we are trying to do is to make it look as seamless as possible and to have it all come from like behind the scenes and like David and Miles and Matthew kind of like working all the technology. And then one aspect of like this virtual world where what we didn't have to deal with in 2007, we were able to just focus on acting. And now we are kind of in charge of our own lighting and switching our backgrounds and our props and, you know, having to adjust our camera angles if we need it for the scene. So it's interesting. It's a lot of fun to kind of learn that, you know, production side of it as well. And it gives you that kind of extra accomplished feeling of running your own show. So
yeah,
I love that. I love that so much because it's true. You guys have to become everybody, right? One of the things I said more than once about digital theater is we've all become theater duct tape, where we have to learn be good at a little bit of everything to hold everything together. So yeah, that's amazing. And I mean, those skills definitely help. And we're hoping that some of this continues to the after times. Miles, you were about to say something.
Yeah, I mean, just to really give you a picture of like what's going on. So we spent multiple rehearsals just screenshotting the different frames of each actor so that David can then in turn create Photoshop templates to then edit these royalty-free images that he finds by himself instantly, cutting it up to where it all matches. So while David's busy doing that during the show, Matthew's busy being a host and literally talking to the audience. So while Matthew's busy talking to the audience, I'm busy arranging all the different squares into the right order. And while I'm busy doing that, the actors are busy changing their costumes, finding their props, changing their digital backgrounds, like Misa was saying, adjusting their thing. Every single one of us have a non-stop from moment one to moment ends. Like it is, and I've been saying this for a while now, and Tilted Frame is technically my 4th production so far. This is the hardest digital theater, virtual theater, whatever you want to call it. I like virtual, that's not the point. Is the hardest thing in the world. It is all the problems of regular theater. It is all the problems of film. Plus, it's all the problems of the internet. And then, like you were saying too, Dana, like we're all becoming duct tape of it is so hard. And then we don't even get to hang out afterwards.
I know. we have to have a rap party one of these days, you guys. We're just gonna do a rap Zoom party. Dana and Ricky, you guys will be invited too.
We'll be there.
Just buy the booze. We'll be there.
Just mail booze. We'll give you our address. Send it to our house. So yeah, you guys are doing a lot more, and I apologize because once again, we know a little bit of everything, but we know a whole lot of nothing. And we knew you guys were putting it up, but we didn't know that you were scrambling in between each thing. We thought like, okay, they do the rehearsal, and like these 3 are already set up. They just have to do the movie one. No.
See, I was just prepared to burn you at the stake because I thought you were all witches. It was just kind of. Because we know like what's going on because we've seen stuff go down, but y'all are the first time where we've just been like, And when we don't even rest backstage. It was like, what happened? Have any of y'all almost not made it to cue actors? Have you almost got where you almost didn't get everything set up in time?
Oh, during some of the shows that you saw, that kind of stuff was happening. I mean, that's the thing, though. This is what's so cool about this specific group. There's something really cool about it in the skill sets that everybody's bringing to it, because being an improviser means you roll with whatever happens. There's no, if it's wrong, you don't have time to sulk and say, oh, that's not what it was supposed to be. It's your fault. No, it's your fault. It's like, no, the show is going, it's moving. You get on that train or you get left behind. So everybody as a team, we have to jump in together and cover each other's mistakes and do whatever we can. And the fact that you guys didn't know that happened is pretty cool, I think.
Yeah.
Or we covered it up, or we made it into a joke in and of itself. All of the same tricks that you use as an improviser when you are working in a stage environment, we do it here. But there's more things. There are fewer things that you can control. There are more variables that are out of your control. So you just got to be comfortable with that. Otherwise, you won't survive here.
Absolutely. Yeah. One of the things we say before we go on stage, all improvisers love to say this to each other, is, I got your back. And boy, never has that been more important than in this. And I always know these folks have my back.
Mm-hmm. And Ricky, Dana, you also brought up kind of something that we believe, that the audience understands the craziness we're going through, and that there is humor in us left versus right or mistakes. And as long as we justify it, as long as we kind of acknowledge that is what's happened and go with it, the audience gets it. And that really helps, because this is so new. I was also just going to add with the tech part, believe it or not, prior to Dave and Miles coming on, the actors were doing a lot more. Right. And so we really, and you saw it affecting the work. And that was one of the impetuses to say, let's bring in some more. Yeah. I mean, it's tough enough now, just costumes and background. And we've heard rumors that there are like Zoom format platforms that let one person change everybody's background. And we're kind of like, ooh, yeah, that would be great. Because the less tech the actors have to do, the better the show's going to be. And so Dave, Miles, and I have kind of double rehearsal. We're meeting independently and playing with all this to get our dance. Like they talk in theater, the dance for the stage manager. And we are working that dance so that the actors do not need to. And that is like what we're trying to create with our skills. And keep it seamless.
Well, and to the dance part of it, Matt, to even give you a little more insight, guys, Matthew and I are listening to the stream on our end before the latency, right? So we're watching it through StreamYard. On top of that, Matt and I are talking on the phone. So then we have the echo of ours through the phone. So then Matthew and I are talking on the phone, then we're texting each other on the StreamYard, just in case an actor doesn't have their screen up or blah, 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 blah. Someone's muted, doesn't matter, right? Like, so literally we're having like 4 conversations behind the scenes on top of what also all the other jobs I said everyone else is doing on top of that.
On top of that, David is in his location. He's also not only doing all the art, he's running the music and sound effects. But to do that, he can't talk. So he can't communicate. So Miles and I are communicating. David's just kind of, God bless you, Dave. Just go, hit those buttons, do your magic. And so it really, again, technology is going to change, and some of that may ease up, but right now it's kind of crazy backstage.
It's insane.
Yeah, it reminds me of a term I call myself, and I've called a few people in this, and that's tech witch, where it looks like you're just pressing a button and a miracle happened, but really it's the hardest thing you've ever done in your life.
So tough.
So yeah.
Yeah, I coined the term because I saw it in a book about someone used something, a term like that when they were describing something in a sci-fi setting. And I was like, well, I feel like in theater, nobody knows who everyone has that tech witch, that person where it looks like they're just doing that. And people don't really appreciate and they don't really understand what's going on. I always felt really bad for soundboard people, social media managers, people who had to be at a computer, and people were like, I don't even know what you do. And they went like, if you had to look at my call book and look at my prompt book, you would throw yourself off of this stage.
In the tech booth at the Magic Castle, before I even showed up, the old stage manager there had a sign that's still there that says, no one appreciates what I do until I don't do it.
Yes.
Which really holds true.
You're talking about the tech witch, and there's a quote. I just looked it up because I have technology at my fingertips, all the knowledge of the world, right? Arthur C. Clarke, the science fiction writer, said any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic.
Yeah.
And what's interesting for us is when we're really firing on all cylinders in this show, we're making you feel the magic through the technology, and you're just brought into the world that we've created for you for your enjoyment. And that's what our goal is.
Which is, while we're talking about all this tech magic and everything everyone's doing, we still have computers just turn off sometimes during a show, or someone's internet freezes and then they're just frozen or gone. So as much as, it's like what we were doing in 2002 to 2007 in those earlier shows, we just had a camera and a projection screen and Skype, and we had all these issues, and it's come so far. And also sometimes the internet just stops. Yeah. So it's like, we're in this thing where we have, all these bells and whistles, and we're still completely at the mercy of our Wi-Fi. Like,
Oh yeah. One of the things we've dealt with power outages in our house when we're trying to watch a show. And the internet just deciding it hates us that day. So yeah, I can only imagine running a show and the Wi-Fi is like, I'm not here. I would be like, I'm about to throw my computer through that wall because I cannot do this. So yeah, you guys make it look easy, which is the greatest compliment to how hard you're working.
Thank you.
All of you make it look like, oh yeah, this is nothing. It's a lot of something then. Because if it looks like nothing, it means it's a lot of something.
Hey guys, if you like what we just did, there's going to be plenty more coming up. Please like, comment, subscribe. Our Venmo is in the description. Please support us if you can. Our cats need the money.